Welcome to the locker room. I am Captain Paul. We're gonna go back with the reaction style video. It's been a little bit since I've done this. I'm gonna be reacting to a Johnny Hockey video. Used to be a subscriber of my channel. He's a pretty big channel, but I thought the conversation would be interesting to have. He made a video on Nylander. Haven't really watched it yet. Want to do it kind of a raw reaction with everybody here. So let's get right into it. Nylander. Come on, with Matthews in Arizona jersey. Okay.
So yesterday, if you guys didn't watch the video, we talked about Auston Matthews in particular and how these rumors now about him going back home to Arizona or going to a hot place in the U.S. like L.A. or San Jose are really going to start to heat up now, especially Arizona. And honestly, that's just the reality. With the contract situation coming up for him, with the type of play that the Leafs have been going through the last few years and the scrutiny that he gets under, especially during playoff time, it's a reality. Not that he's going to leave, but that it's a very real possibility.
I mean, this is a good point. If you're going to trade Auston Matthews, it's got to be this offseason. It just has to be. He's making $11.6 million. Next year is the last year on his deal. Will he resign with the Maple Leafs? That's a genuine question. Do we know? I'm not sure. You know, the guy is a superstar. Do the Leafs want him to go? No. Maybe not superstar, but the guy's a star in this league. Good point producer. I usually don't like this. I have like maybe 4 players in the league I consider in that superstar tier, but back on the conversation, you wouldn't want to let a young player like this just entering their prime go. But if you are, you're going to want to deal him this offseason so you can get a massive return on your investment. Because Matthews will be a pretty good player for a very long time. He's still only 25 years old. But it brings up a point. If he's not going to resign with you long term due to maybe the team's construction or maybe just not liking the market, this would be the best time. But who's going to be able to eat that amount of cap? Now, there's certain teams like Buffalo that come top of my mind just off the noggin that could work. But I don't think that would happen for obvious reasons. You wouldn't want to trade a player like Matthews within the division. And it would have to be an interesting package. Like if I'm the Leafs, it has to be either a lot of draft picks or good quality hockey players with draft picks. If I'm trading Matthews, I'm getting the damn moon. Like I'm getting the moons and stars.
But something else really interesting happened after that game where they got eliminated by the Florida Panthers. William Nylander is the one who stepped up in a 2-1 game and tied the thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs with under 5 minutes left. And when that happened, you saw quite a few people online, on Twitter mostly, saying, man, if this is William Nylander's last big moment as a Maple Leaf, that's really sad. And if you look at it, there is a very real possibility that if Kyle Dubas or whoever the GM is in a couple of months decides, hey, we have to make some kind of shake up to this core 4 in order to have playoff success, I think that William Nylander is going to be the first casualty. I really do. And you could come at me all you want with Mitch Marner. But the problem with that is that he's making a double-digit salary, and most teams have to move heaven and earth to make room for a contract like that, whereas William Nylander is getting paid a shade under $7 million, and his no-trade clause doesn't kick in until July 1st, which, by the way, is the last year on this deal. Very digestible for so many teams in the NHL. Somewhat easy contract to take on. It's not.
So this is the problem. Right, so he brings up a good point, right? The new no movement clause doesn't come into effect till July 1st of this year because it's the last year of his deal. But when I'm looking at Nylander, it is the last year of his deal. Let's look at the last couple seasons to get a value on him, right? So this past season, 82 games played, 40 goals, 47 assists for 87 points. That's a fantastic season. Season prior, 81 games played, 34 goals, 46 assists for 80 points. Another great season. In only 51 games played in 2021, 17 goals, 25 assists for 42 points. Like Nylander has continually, improved himself and became better and better and more of a point producer. Yeah, you could get him for a little bit under $7 million now, but what is he going to want on that next contract? Because that does affect the value. Because if I'm going to be acquiring Nylander, I want to have some type of either some long-term arrangement, like a sign and trade possibly in place, or maybe trade him and there's a signing happens right after the fact where you already have negotiating with his agent, or I'm not giving up an arm and a leg for him. will William Nylander being dealt fix Toronto? No, unless you get a quality top 4 defender back. That's the only way it makes sense to me, at least. But are you going to be able to get a quality top 2 guy, maybe second pairing guy from Nylander? I mean, on paper, yes. But if I'm an NHL GM and I can't lock him up for the future, I'm going to be giving far less. That's just kind of the honest part of this argument.
Not like he's 30, 31, 32. He's still in his 20s, man. He's 27, right in his prime. And you can come at me all you want with he's soft. He doesn't go in the corners. You can't win with a guy like this. He checks out. Do it all you want. This isn't.
I hate that argument in some degree. I think with some players, they a little too soft in playoffs, but this guy,
easy peasy contract to move. Seriously, with a guy of this skill level who has this kind of offensive upside and talent and has proven that he can produce at the NHL level, you're going to have no problem moving this contract and getting good value for it, despite what some people say about him in the playoffs and the consistency thing with William Nylander. But the one thing that went through my head when I saw him score that 2-2 goal against Florida and he was fired up on the bench, I want this guy to be a Calgary Flames so bad. And again, I posted about it a few times, and I'm not the only one. I saw no less than 5 Flames fans on Twitter who were really, really diehards of the team, love these guys.
Wait a minute. Nylander to the Flames. It would make your top 9 far more well-rounded. What are you giving up for Nylander? Are you giving up a first? You're giving up a second? And there's obviously going to have to be a little bit more than that because he's a proven 40-goal scorer in the NHL. He's like a mid-30, low-40 goal scorer. I mean, there's some value there, but what are you going to give up? And does Nylander make the Calgary Flames a better team than this current iteration they had this past season? I don't know, because they still have problems in goal. Markstrom and Vladar. I mean, you're paying Markstrom another 3 years, I believe. He's making $6 million. Vladar, I mean, he's a cheaper contract, younger goalie, but both had .892 save percentages, if I believe off the top of my head. They're not beating down the door. I mean, Dustin Wolf is down in the AHL, and he's a fantastic goalie, and I think the future's bright for him in that. But does Nylander really solve these issues? I mean, if I'm Calgary, I'm looking for – if I can get Nylander for a reasonable price because he's only on a 1-year deal, essentially, I mean, yeah, I kick the tires on that. But it'd be nice for them to get another quality.
Posting their mock lineups for next season, and they had William Nylander, top right winger, with Jonathan Huberdeau and Elias Lindholm. And there's even a guy named Drew on Twitter. Give him a follow. He's a great Flames follow who photoshopped William Nylander in Flames gear. And it's just awesome to see a lot of Flames fans hop on this bandwagon. Of course, there's a ton of fans who are saying, no, I don't want another passenger who's just going to kind of cruise and complain when the Flames lose. And I get it. I really do. I mean, especially with the dynamic in the locker room that we just witnessed with the Flames, with guys like Huberdeau and Kadri versus Daryl Sutter, and there was rumors about complaining and stuff like that. I understand another guy who isn't always at his best.
Okay. So Calgary needed to change things with Sutter. So, I mean, I know he's done big things, but Sutter, he lost the room. The team didn't look like it cared. And maybe that could change some of the players that they had acquired from last season. Maybe they'll improve next season. I mean, Huberdeau, if you look at the stats, is he a 100-point scorer? Traditionally, no. But around 80, like mid-70s, 89, like that's attainable for him. He's had those type of point totals before. This year was horrific for him. I'm expecting him to bounce back next year. I'm hoping he's around 70, 80 for points. He's more of a playmaker. He needs to have that chemistry with his line mates. I mean, to be fair, traded to Calgary, he just needs a little bit more time. Whereas Tkachuk, who got traded to Florida, like Tkachuk is a superstar. Tkachuk carries the play. Is Huberdeau a guy that's going to carry a team? No, but Tkachuk is. Tkachuk is made of that DNA, just the way he is. They're two different personalities, two different styles of play as well. Again, you bring Nylander over. Does that help your offense a bit more? Yeah. I mean, you were around league average, like middle of the pack, offensively and defensively in the league. It would help you maybe get into a wild card spot. But there's just so many other questions I have with the Flames roster. I mean, Nylander would be more of a luxury to me because you already have the talent there in Calgary. Those players just need to actually produce. I mean, Nazem Kadri, you're paying. I mean, let me look real quick actually for Nazem Kadri. Yeah, you're paying Nazem Kadri $7 million. He's your most expensive forward. Obviously, Huberdeau gets bumped up to 10.5, so second most expensive forward. And he was bumped down to third line. That's just not good enough. You need him to do far better than he did. So maybe next season you could see the Flames bounce around and turn it around, I should say, because their players that they acquired that should have produced last season will produce this upcoming season. I don't know. I don't think Nylander solves these issues
at all times for the Toronto Maple Leafs here. I understand the hesitancy, but at the same time, man, did the Flames lack another punchy offensive star player with a ton of talent and skill and speed this year. I mean, this Nylander kid could be your bump back guy. He could be a trigger man on your PP1. I mean, you give him a chance here, and he could really help drive the offense. But he won't be the face of the franchise. And look, I don't think William Nylander is a face of the franchise type player. I think he's an amazing complementary 2 or 3, which is what he is in Toronto. But I really do think that given a new, fresh opportunity as a 2 or a 3 behind a guy like Huberdeau or Lindholm, I think this guy is going to absolutely thrive. I really do. And I posted about it on Twitter. His dad, Michael Nylander, played for the Calgary Flames in his heyday. William was born here in Calgary. I know he identifies as Swedish, but he was born here. And I mean, if his dad's not in his ear saying, hey, Calgary would be a great place for you to play, man, I'd be surprised, to be honest with you. And
I get the family connection, but family connections always don't mean much, really, at least in my opinion, right? I mean, I'll just say this more from a Bruins perspective because I'm a Bruins fan. I mean, Ted Donato, coach of Harvard after he retired. Ryan came over. It didn't really work out. I mean, he's kind of found a path in the NHL. Ray Bork's son, Chris Bork, played for the Providence Bruins. They tried to get him in the NHL. Didn't work. I can get that the being familiar with an organization definitely helps. But, I mean, that's not going to – at the end of the day, when it comes to Nylander, he's looking to get a bump in pay. And would it make sense for the Flames to acquire a player like this where – yeah, he's under $7 million next season, but what is he going to want for a longer term deal? And what am I giving up to get him? Now, if I'm just getting him as a pure rental and I'm giving up maybe a second rounder and maybe a couple other pieces, maybe it could be digestible. But if I can't lock him up long term and I can't fit underneath my cap because Huberdeau is already going to get bumped up to 10.5, am I going to want to throw a lot of assets to Toronto? It just doesn't. I don't know if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
And if he doesn't like it, then Willie, you're a free agent next year. Then you can go sign with your Florida Panthers or your Tampa Bay Lightning or whatever you want, Vegas Golden Knights, if that's what you want to do. But I really think this could be a home run swing for Leaf fans too. I love the Leafs, and I think that this could work for them too because there's players on the Flames roster who could really benefit the Maple Leafs. And I'm talking to you, Noah Hannafin. And I know I just mentioned Lindholm, but if he decides when he's a free agent, he doesn't want to come back with the Flames, he could be somebody sent in a deal to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Lindholm with the Leafs, I think, would be sick. I think that would be such an awesome move. He would fit in perfectly on that roster. I think both sides can end up happy on this one. But yeah, of course, I want to know your guys' opinion as usual. Leaf fans, Flame fans especially, what do you think about this? And give me your trade proposals. Who would you trade? Nylander for who? I think this could really be a winner for both sides. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Good video by Johnny as usual. He makes some good content. Appreciate it, Johnny. Okay. Who would make sense? Let me look at the Calgary roster. So he's saying possibly trade Lindholm. Because he's 28. He's making 4. Would you want to trade Lindholm, though? Would you genuinely want to trade Lindholm? That's the actual true question here. Would you want to trade a guy? Let me go to him. Pop this up here in StreamYard real quick. These videos are informal, so I apologize. Not my usually heavy editing style. But, I mean, Lindholm is making 4.85. He's your center. Good player. 28 years old. I mean, let's look at his production the past few seasons, right? Okay, let's do it this way. So this past season, 80 games played, 22 goals, 42 assists for 64 points. Season before that, 42 goals, 40 assists for 82 points. Then, 47 and 56. Like, he's a competent, not competent, he's a great player. Good center. That's what you want. Do you give up this piece? Do you give up a center for a wing? And then, because what's your fix here defensively, right? Or down the middle? Let's go to depth charts, right? Lindholm is your top line C. Michael Backlund. I mean, Nazem Kadri, you're paying $7 million. Maybe he could bounce back. I just don't see Nylander and Lindholm being an equal trade there. I don't think that solves your issues. Look like Nazem Kadri played absolutely horrific last season. 56 points in 82 games played, which isn't bad, but for $7 million, that's way too expensive. And he was like a -19. And he was a ghost. He was a ghost at times during the season. So you got to anticipate him bouncing back. But you get rid of a guy like Lindholm, who's proven that he's a solid player, and then bring in Nylander in a wing. I don't know. Just, if I'm the Flames, I'm trying to retain the talent I have. Maybe I send a few picks over. This is a difficult conversation to have. I don't think Nylander with any player on this roster would fix it. I mean, do you send a first? Send a first over for Nylander? Maybe a couple of prospects that kind of come to mind. I don't know. I don't see Nylander improving the Flames enough to make earth-shattering trades to shake up their roster too crazily. I'm expecting Huberdeau to bounce back. Historically, when it comes to his career, and we'll even actually look into the stats. Is he a 100-point scorer? No, he's not. But it's going to scroll on down. Oh, the original Florida Panther logo. That's a pretty one, baby. So, last season, 55 points in 79 games played, 15 goals, 40 assists for 55 points. Then his career high, 115 points, 30 goals, 85 assists for 80 points. But then season prior, 55 games played, 20 goals, 41 assists for 61 points. Season before that, 23 goals, 55 assists for 78 points in 69 games played. Season before that, 30 goals, 62 assists for 92 points in 82 games played. Like, he has proven that he's around on full season pace, around an 80 to a 90-point score. 115 is the anomaly. He's not going to be that high of a point producer unless he has the proper talent around him. He's more of a playmaker. It's actually a frustrating part of Huberdeau's game is he just won't shoot the puck at times. But is he a 55-point scorer for the rest of his career? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. And will he ever justify that $10.5 million cap hit? No, he won't. I mean, even if the cap goes up, I don't really see him justifying it. But, you got to anticipate him improving. I mean, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts down below. I'm kind of wishy-washy on this deal. I don't know if it would make sense in a swap, a center for a wing. I think the Maple Leafs would actually be getting better value due to that because the center is one of the most coveted positions to get, and Lindholm has proven to be a competent one. But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts down below and your trade proposals. And definitely make sure to watch Johnny Hockey's video if you haven't already. Figure this would be a fun little video to do to have some conversation. I'm Captain Paul, and I'll see you in the next one.